the idea came about as we needed a day or a week where we use film to talk about issues of transitional justice, to focus on peace building, and mainly to look at the issues around Gukurahundi and the various aspects of them. So in the second part was we have been doing this for the first, we started in 2020 and 2021. So we started the program or the film festival during COVID. So the first 2 years were mainly online, but also smaller groups, 30 people or below. And over the years, we've had quite a diverse group of people coming in to present different issues. And every year we have launched 2 documentaries or at least 1 documentary during the week. And so this year's festival is also has seen us launching a documentary. Also, we're having a film screening. We're going to be launching a book this Friday. We're going to have a public lecture. The whole idea is to have a week dedicated to addressing the issues of Gukurahundi, the issues of transitional justice. And of course, right now we're having a Twitter space where we are talking about the documents that were the ideas that were presented on how the chiefs should be handle this thing. So it's a way of trying to have a week where we are focusing and zeroing in on Gukurahundi, the progress that has been made, if there is any progress, and also how this issue is affecting our communities and what can be done.
Okay, so maybe just a quick rundown of what is happening this week for those who want to tune in, for those who want to follow. Where should they tune in? Is there a program on Facebook? Is it on Twitter, YouTube, or is there a physical venue where things are going on?
Mainly because of the security issues, the events are by invitation, but most of the events are also found online. So on Monday, which was yesterday, we had a film launch. We will crash them, which is a documentary launch. The documentary is on YouTube. If you go to the site, YouTube page, site ZW, and on Facebook as well, it is there. So today we had a film on disinformation. We're just showing this to young people on the effects of disinformation. Tomorrow, we're going to have a public lecture on whose justice and whose peace. The public lecture will be live streamed, so it will be on Facebook. We hope it will be on a Twitter space, and it will also be on YouTube. Then on Thursday, there's nothing. We are rewinding and preparing for Friday. And on Friday, we are going to be launching a book called Memory and Erasure, Gukurahundi and the Culture of Violence in Zimbabwe. So we hope that after Friday, the book will also be available for people to buy it. For now, it's available in Harare and in Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo, mainly in Zimbabwe, but also trying to work out how it can be found, internationally, regionally. I never thought the issues of publications are so difficult until I was involved in this project. So the issue of distribution, if you're not working with a big company to distribute, it's always difficult to know or to get your product across the world. But yeah, people can follow site on Facebook, on Twitter. They will be sharing information on the activities that are happening daily.
Okay, and the spelling for site is C-I-T-E.
Yes.
C-I-T-E, yes. So you can follow site on Facebook, YouTube, and even here on Twitter, C-I-T-E. It's Center for Innovation and what?
And Technology.
Center for Innovation and Technology, site C-I-T-E. So follow that page on Facebook, follow it on Twitter and YouTube. You are going to get more information about the ongoing Asake Film Festival. What is the theme for this year?
The theme for this year is truth and memory.
All right, sure. Thank you so much, Zenzele. Let's then move on to encourage the listeners to share this space so that other people can join us as well and participate. We are going to take exactly 2 hours. We should be done by 9. We have three panelists, Taona Denere, Cindy Somazivisa, and Efi Ngube. They are going to help us unpack this report and give their different views on it. And then afterwards, we are going to open to the audience for a question and answer. And of course, Zenzele is going to give us key remarks here and there based on what the panel has presented to us. Mapoko, our ground rules.
Our ground rules. Please be patient with us. But no, it will be a great discipline on all of us, including the panelists and Labantu Ababuzama questions, to be mindful of the time. I think if we also be patient, Sizavula, mic. We will open the mics in due course, so don't worry about it. Please feel free to add the hashtag if you want us to read the comments that you put on Twitter or my messages. I'll be following those through. Otherwise, link inbox and I will also try and read them through. Mics. That's it from me, Mzala, for now.
Okay, thank you. So maybe you can then go ahead and give us a brief review or the background of this report that we are looking at today. Afterwards, I'm going to touch on the effects of Gukurahundi in terms of this report and the what has been identified as issues requiring attention. Then afterwards, we can open up to our panel.
Okay, so this report, I will be reading the introduction only. It is the Zimbabwe report on the consultative meetings on the Gukurahundi issue between the National Council of Chiefs, the Chiefs of Matabeleland North and South, and the Matabeleland Civic Society. So I will read as is written in the introduction. And I'll start. Consultations with regard to the issue of Gukurahundi commenced after His Excellence, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, heeded the invitation extended to him on the 21st of March 2019 by the Matabeleland Civic Society organization, working under the banner of Matabeleland Collective, to come to Bulawayo to discuss issues affecting the Matabeleland region. As a result, His Excellence, the President, convened a consultative meeting with the chiefs from the Matabeleland region on the 24th of June 2019 to discuss the issues that were raised in the invitation letter referred to above. Another meeting was held on the 22nd of August 2019 between a high-powered government delegation led by His Excellence, the President, and the Matabeleland Collective as part of the effort to continue cooperation and dialogue. At the 22nd of August 2019 meeting, it was resolved to involve traditional leaders to spearhead the Gukurahundi issue. Additional meetings to that effect were held on the 24th and the 30th of October 2020, wherein His Excellence, the President, met with the chiefs from the Matabeleland provinces to receive their respective reports on the consultative processes relating to the issues of Gukurahundi, which they conducted in their areas of jurisdiction. Furthermore, on the 30th of October 2020, His Excellence, the President, met the National Council of Chiefs, wherein all the members of the National Council of Chiefs endorsed the initiative of traditional leaders taking leadership in resolving issues of Gukurahundi. The meeting culminated in two interfaces between the National Council of Chiefs, Matabeleland Collective, and the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, NPRC, on the 22nd and the 26th of December 2020 to map a way forward concerning the issue of Gukurahundi. Furthermore, the National Council of Chiefs from the 29th of July to the 1st of August 2021 and from the 4th to the 6th of August 2021 held consultative meetings with Matabeleland Civic Society. The findings of the consultation were presented to His Excellence, the President, on the 21st of August 2021, wherein he reaffirmed the commitment of government to resolve the issues with respect to Gukurahundi. From the 3rd to the 4th of September 2021, the National Council of Chiefs presented the report of the consultations with stakeholders to the chiefs of the Matabeleland North and South, as well as the endorsement by His Excellence, the President, to the process. The meeting was also attended by government officials from the Ministry of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, in particular the Registrar General's Office. The officials responded to questions by the chiefs on issues around documentation of victims, who reaffirmed government's position to facilitate the same. Last paragraph. The National Council of Chiefs convened a meeting from the 10th to the 11th of March 2022. On the 10th of March 2022, the meeting was attended by 22 civic society organizations and faith-based organizations that had attended the 29th of July to 1st of August 2021 and the 4th to the 6th of August 2021 consultative meetings. The purpose of the meeting was to give feedback on the report presented to His Excellence, the President, as well as present the President's response to that report. Furthermore, the meeting also allowed the stakeholders to further enhance their contribution to the process by suggesting possible enablers to the roadmap. That's the last sentence. Thank you, Mzala.
Thank you, Mapoko. I'll move to page 8 of the report. This is what the findings were on the effects of Gukurahundi from the information that was collected from all the stakeholders. Number 1, the issue of documentation, birth, national IDs and death certificates. Number 2, underdevelopment and marginalization of Matabeleland region. 3, people lost lives. 4, women were raped. 5, people are still traumatized. 6, people lost breadwinners and their loved ones. 7, people's lives were affected. 8, people lost their property, pensions, salaries, and identity. Next one, some people want to perform rituals, but they don't know where their children were buried. Next one, Gukurahundi caused migration. Most people from the region did not benefit from the land reform program. Gukurahundi caused poverty and underdevelopment. Disabled people from Gukurahundi should be state supported. Lack of trust in government institutions and resentment of government programs. Businesses were destroyed. Some people are perpetually on drought relief handouts. Some victims are experiencing mental challenges, and the youth in Matabeleland do not feel as if they are part of Zimbabwe 40 years after independence. And then I'll move to page 12 of the report, issues requiring attention. Number 1, the first issue identified was acknowledgement and apology. 2, consultation of victims. 3, reburials, exhumations and memorials. Repatriations, compensation on individuals and communities. The payment of pensions and salaries. Documentation, social security benefits, that is health services, psychosocial support, free basic education. Request for Zipra trust properties, war records and memorabilia, Binga and the Zambezi Valley issues, general development in the region, infrastructure development, e.g. roads and natural resources. So these are just part of the extracts of what is in the report. Unfortunately, we can't read the entire report in this short space of time, but I believe our panel will be able to assist us to understand the issues that are contained in the report. Without wasting much time, let me hand over to Efingube to give us his understanding of the events that culminated in this report. Efingube is a policy analyst, transitional justice expert, and activist. He has been watching or involved in this whole process. He will explain to us the issues that culminated in this report being produced and the attitude of this government towards the issues of Gukurahundi. Efingube, I hand over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I must state before I proceed to deal with the matters that you raised, to first deal with the issue of the background on Gukurahundi. And we must remember before I even proceed that this is, we are already entering 4 decades since the Gukurahundi genocide was committed, and no attempt at resolving it has been done by the state. It is also important to note that this was not just an act in ignorance, but there were attempts along the way to always suppress the memory, to suppress the speakers, the activists who wanted the Gukurahundi matter to be comprehensively addressed in terms of international standards and norms. And we will have to note as we proceed the fact that the campaigns for the resolution of the Gukurahundi matter are as old as the Gukurahundi genocide itself. As early as when it began to be committed in 1983, there were reports by the church and other members of civil society to the effect that the kind of atrocities that were being committed were no doubt a genocide. One would refer to the meeting between the Prime Minister then, Robert Mugabe, and a team led by Archbishop Cullen, who was the head of the Catholic Church in the Archdiocese of Bulawayo. And the government was in denial. And let's fast track that to 1987, where again, at the signing of the Unit Accord, there was a call for the comprehensive resolution of the outstanding matters of the Gukurahundi genocide. Again, nothing was done at the point. In the 1990s, the pressure continued until in 1997, when the report Breaking the Silence was released. Again, there was an attempt to suppress its release, but it was released nonetheless. Immediately after that, there was an attempt by government to use the traditional leaders and local authorities to address the matters that it thought needed immediate attention. Nothing was done at the point again. And we must also remember that throughout that period, there was a campaign for a new constitution, and in the new constitution was inserted by the campaigners, civil society in particular, that there has to be an independent commission that will deal with the issue of Gukurahundi, the Gukurahundi matter, the genocide. That was resisted, and we fast track to the after the constitution, where the NPRC was put in place, and no enabling act was enacted until 2018. After that, there was silence, no budget, no budgetary provisions, and whatever support was needed for it to go out there. Its composition was subject to contestation because there was a feeling that it was dominated by people who had no understanding of the politics of Gukurahundi and the suffering of the people of Matabeleland and the Midlands, that is the victims and survivors of the Gukurahundi genocide. From the blue, of course, then there was an engagement between civil society, organizations under the Matabeleland Collective, and the president. And after that, as you have been narrating, you get to a stage where the president thought that it was okay to engage the chiefs. From an ordinary standpoint of view, without even getting into the details that are far more sophisticated for the regular discussions that we always have on a day-to-day basis, it is important to note that Zimbabwe will be the first to have a successful transitional justice process or dealing with the past when the perpetrators of the past that is subject to investigation, that is subject to hearing, are still in office. It has never been done anywhere. Wherever it has been done, you have had to have the transition first. That is why we say it's transitional justice. That is justice in respect of the transition away from a dictatorship, away from the perpetrators of genocide and crimes against humanity, to a new democratic state that is respectful of human rights. And the hearings that then take place in the are part and parcel of the reform of the state, turning the old genocidal flag, page to a new future. So we will be the first to successfully do that. So imagine the challenge. And imagine also the skepticism that arises from that, because it has never been done before, and it is unlikely that it will be done successfully as long as the perpetrators are still in charge of the levels of power. The reason why you say is transitional is because we are moving from a particular page to another. Also of particular note is that the campaign all along has been for a Gukurahundi specific independent commission with full resources and the full support within and internationally to conduct a comprehensive hearing, a comprehensive investigation of what transpired, to establish the circumstances of Gukurahundi, the circumstances of what transpired, the facts around that, the people who were forcibly disappeared, who were raped, who were killed, whose properties were burned, and so forth and so forth. So again, the chief's process is not an answer to what was expected and campaigned for by civil society and other people who wanted to see justice. There was also this skepticism of the fact that we have had at least two commissions, one commission and a committee, the Tumbuchena Commission and the Chiambakwe Committee, were tasked to investigate some of the occurrences or incidents, at least early in the 1980s for Tumbuchena, and in 1983 for Chiambakwe. And none of those reports were released. And the immediate question that arose during the engagements was, to what extent are we going to repeat the same? You have the chiefs go out there and the report is never released, or it is manipulated to eliminate the inconveniencing truths that the state does not want. Lastly, as a preface to this, the campaign was that the resolution of the Gukurahundi genocide has to be on the basis of established or recognized the 4 pillars of transitional justice. That is to say, the right to the truth, that everything has to be done to uncover all the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And that to that extent, both the perpetrator and the victims must appear before a commission to establish exactly what transpired. Secondly, the second principle is that of reparations. That reparations that are adequate and appropriate for the kind of atrocities that would have been committed are paid. Then the third thing is the right to justice, that every form of justice must be considered in order to comprehensively deal with the issue of Gukurahundi, or in this particular case, the Gukurahundi genocide, sorry to say that. And then lastly, that the solution has to also deal with what we call non-repetition or non-recurrence, so that we reform the state in a comprehensive way to prevent any possible commission of similar atrocities in future. And to the extent that that is not done, then you feed the fires of impunity, and you see the kind of violations that we are seeing even today during elections and so forth, because nothing has been done around the most violent, the most murderous years of the 1980s. So the state was confronted with that, and there is a belief amongst many that the state is not seeking to solve the Gukurahundi genocide for the victims, but is seeking to address it for itself as the state for the perpetrator. So there is going to be a challenge on that one. So, and also there is the issue of budget that needs to go with that. Where will the resources come from? Are the chiefs going to be sufficiently independent to conduct the kind of comprehensive investigation of what took place? Are the people on the ground, the victims and survivors, going to be allowed the space to appear before the chiefs freely without intimidation? Also, is the report going, who is going to process this information? That's another issue. Whatever is going to be coming from the chiefs, where is it going to go? Who is going to analyze that information and determine what is it that the people say it should be done? So these are the issues that arise out of that. And from a content standpoint of view, it was very clear, it was known, civil society, the church, and those who appeared before the chiefs on consultation were very clear that you are dealing with mass murder, mass graves, mass rapes, mass torture, and so many things that are so damaging to society, that not only killed the people then, but you also have the recurring and lingering effects of the Gukurahundi genocide that are found across the economic field, the socio-cultural field, in the education, in development, in every way. In other words, the Gukurahundi genocide has continued in other parts of society and lives. So these are the issues that arose and that are confronting the chiefs. Their independence is going to be tested. The resources that go with that are going to be tested. Where the report is going to go, a lot of observation is going to go to that. And lastly, the issue, the role of the president, because in this particular instance, the president is not just a president of the country, but he is particularly fingered in the commission of the genocide itself. So his role in the chief's process is going to be very much closely followed to see to what extent he allows the chiefs to do whatever they are supposed to do, or he will be closely monitoring them, manipulating them, controlling them, so that they do not produce the kind of information that he doesn't want to hear about. So all those are the issues in a nutshell.
Okay, so thank you so much, Effie, for your eloquent unveiling of the issues leading to this report. Before we go to the next speaker, Mapoko, I've got two questions for Effie. The first one concerns the Matabeleland Collective that approached the current president on this issue. Perhaps you can clarify for our listeners what the Matabeleland Collective is all about and how this whole process of engaging the president happened. Was it a government initiative? Was it their initiative? How did this all unravel from your observation?
Well, thank you very much. I must state from the beginning that I was never a member of the collective, so I will be speaking as an outsider, as an observer. I did not participate in its meetings, in the planning and all those things that took place when they were planning whatever they were planning. But I can only take it from when it became public. For me, the first time I got to hear about the engagements was post the meeting at the State House. And there was already a controversial aspect of that particular gathering, whether or not the civil society and the church under the Machiavellian Collective had been invited by the president, or they had invited the president, and to what extent was the interrelationships, that was the debate. But I believe within the civil society, the Machiavellian Collective, there were people who were genuinely concerned about the Gukurahundi genocide. I know many who wanted to find a solution. The process might have been flawed one way or the other, or some of the colleagues there might have gotten ahead of themselves and began to say certain things that did not go down very well with the public. Like sort of praising the president, who is viewed by the people, and rightly so, as a co-perpetrator of the Gukurahundi genocide. So that was a challenge, and there remains a cloud over that, whether or not the collective is sufficiently independent for what it has to do to have oversight of the processes and the government as civil society is expected to. That is the question best answered by the leadership of the collective itself.
Okay, thank you so much, Effie. Let me give you the last question. I'm hoping that perhaps there is someone in our audience who is part of the collective. During our Q&A, maybe they are going to come on board and assist us with clarity. Then the second issue, Effie, you have been observing the Gukurahundi issues since the 1980s up to now. We know for a fact that President Mugabe never entertained this issue. It was never really discussed publicly. But with this new government, we see the president traveling a lot to Matabeleland to seek a resolution of this issue. Would you say there is a shift in government policy on Gukurahundi, or as some analysts are saying, no, this is just an election gimmick? What's your view on that? The president saying under his administration, people must talk openly about Gukurahundi. Gukurahundi must be resolved. People must talk freely about it. And him doing all these meetings in Matabeleland with traditional leaders, Matabeleland Collective. Now we even have this report and other reports coming. Is it a shift in government policy from your bird's eye point of view as you observe these issues as they unfold?
Well, I cannot say that there is a fundamental shift of the policy, because the Gukurahundi genocide is yet to be resolved. And also, given the contradictions within the government itself, sometimes you hear the Minister of Justice saying this, tomorrow you hear some officials of government, the spokesperson of the president saying this. There is a lot of contradiction that is coming from government. And the people of Matabeleland and Midlands, the victims, the survivors, are not looking for an opportunity to speak that the president should be saying, well, you can now talk about it. They want a comprehensive resolution of that. That is the only thing that is going to be acceptable to them. Not just talking about it, decriminalizing, talking about it. As we speak right now, as the president was visiting chiefs, visiting civil society in Matabeleland, the very state, I can allege here, that was destroying the memorial monuments that were being built by the communities in commemoration or in remembrance of their loved ones. So there is a lot of gap between what is said and what is taking place on the ground. So it is too early for me to say there has been a fundamental shift in government policy. The only way we will get to a stage where we say there has been a fundamental shift is when this matter, this Gukurahundi genocide, has been resolved on the basis of the truth and justice. Those are the twin pillars that must always accompany any attempt to resolve the Gukurahundi genocide. It must pursue the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. It must pursue justice for the people, for those who suffer, whether in form of reparations, and it must comprehensively undo the apparatus of the state that committed the genocide. We cannot continue as if nothing happened. We need to decapacitate, to paralyze, to change those institutions that committed genocide. For now, they are still armed and dangerous. So the word itself alone is not enough. You need to change more. And also look at the fact that the chiefs from the Midlands province have not been invited. For listeners, they might note that. Why is the president choosing Matabele North and South and leaving the Midlands out when the Gukurahundi, the 5th Brigade was deployed in 1983, it was doing as much as it did in Matabele North in the Midlands province. And when are those people in the Midlands going to speak? When are the chiefs going to participate? And also lastly on this one, where are the perpetrators themselves going to speak? Because the chiefs are being asked to speak to the victims and the survivors. But the international best practice is that the perpetrators themselves also must appear before a commission. And it is not clear for me now whether the chiefs are a commission of inquiry or they are just consulting the public just like that. But if the president is bluffing, let's see to what extent his bluff is going to go.
Mzala, if I can add to that as well. Effie, I don't know if you'll be able to answer, but do you know why they decided not to include foreigners or international people to help with this?
Well, it's a question that we asked. If you go back to 1 August 2018, immediately after 6 people were killed in Harare, a commission of inquiry was established, and there were some people from outside the country. And on Gukurahundi, the president says, oh no, the chiefs are going to handle this. So there is the issue of non-predictability, why the chiefs decide when the 6 people had an independent commission for all its flaws. But to the extent that it was appointed, it was a departure from what was the norm until then. So there has been an insistence on the people that whether it is whoever is going to be conducting that investigation, there has to be an international eye. Given the scale of the killings, we are talking about genocide. Genocide is a violation of international law. And therefore, you need a view from the international community as well on that one. That has been a demand, a recurring demand from civil society in particular. And I expect that that is going to go on, pressed on and on and on and on until the issue of, the Gukurahundi genocide is comprehensively addressed. And lastly on that one, even as we are speaking today, people are dying, evidence is disappearing, and it was deliberate on the part of the perpetrators to buy time. I don't know now to what extent are they committed to addressing this matter comprehensively. But from what is out there, from the statements, the contradicting statements and other things that the oversight on the Midlands and so forth, it does not as yet convince me and others that this time around they are completely committed to resolving the genocide. But let us see as things go on, what is it that they are going to be doing. But meanwhile, the campaigns for a more comprehensive resolution will continue.
Thank you, Effie. We're actually at the moment also getting Uziso to help us post the report for you guys. So if you try and look through a post that I made on my profile, you should be able to see pages of the report on there. Read it with care because of the way that we've put it as a PDF. You'll be able to see which the pages sort of move, but the pages are noted at the bottom. And also just one thing to note, I know I picked up from the report as well, Effie, that the reason why they excluded eMidlands at this point is merely to try and it's sort of like a pilot scheme with Imatebeleland region. And then I guess once they succeed with that side, they would then move to the Midlands provinces. But obviously that is still to be seen. Mzala, over to you.
Maybe can I come in there? Sorry about that. This is speaking very much loud. The term that we have used there, you are saying it is a pilot. If you are piloting, you are yet to get to the main thing. No one is expecting a piloting. People are looking for a comprehensive resolution of the Gukurahundi genocide. As long as they continue to hear of these words, pilot there, leaving other districts, leaving other victims and survivors out, and picking and choosing how it is going to be done, determining the process. No one wants a process that is presided over by perpetrators. That is unacceptable to the people out there. So to the extent that the perpetrators are still deciding when and where the consultations are going to take place and talking about piloting and so forth, the more people are skeptical about the process.
Absolutely. If I can also read that particular paragraph, I agree with everything Watu Efi has said. It's noted on the page 22 where they state it was highlighted that although the Midlands province was also an area that was affected by the Gukurahundi incident, the program would be rolled out first in Matabeleland province. The launch of the program in Matabeleland North and South provinces would serve as a litmus test before rolling it out to the Midlands provinces. And as Uefi said, people want solutions, not a test at this moment. Mzala, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mapoko. I think we will take Usindiso for now. Mazivisa is saying he's having network challenges and electricity issues in Bulawayo, so we'll try to get him to quickly make his presentation, and then afterwards we'll open the to Taona, who will give us an international perspective on the report and other issues. Sindiso, over to you, sir. He is a legal expert. Yeah, we hand over to Sindiso Mazivisa. You can unmute your mic, Mazivisa.
Can you hear me, Mzala and others?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, sir.
It's lacking light. Electricity is giving us lots of issues now and network issues. Hopefully, I won't sound like a broken record, repeating what other speakers have already said. I heard Tupudu Uefi saying a lot of things, and what Mapoko and yourself have said. Right, I'll be brief, like we are saying, just in case lose connection. Right, number one, I find it odd, extremely disconcerting that a process is set in motion. Well, I'll speak as a legal expert, I'll speak as a lawyer. I don't find a legal basis for the process that has been.
Mapoko, can you hear Mazivisa?
No, I think it gets to see.
Yeah, okay. Let's hand over to Taona. We'll try to get to Mazivisa afterwards. Taona, good evening and welcome. Yeah, give us your shot on this.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, sir. We go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. I managed to get hold of this report, both the consultative meeting report on the Gukurahundi and also the manual community engagement on Gukurahundi. So when I got this report, you know, the first thing I did before I read the report, I went to the back of the report. I was looking at the reference section of the report. Unfortunately, on the manual for community engagement, I did not see it. And also on the consultative meeting, I did not see the reference section. Then I look at the front of it. Unfortunately, I did not see it. The reason why I went and looked for that, because I was particularly looking to see the references, to see the report referencing the Chihambakwe Commission, referencing the Catholic Commission for Justice, Peace and Report, like Breaking the Silence, and also referencing what they call it, the UNITA Code of 1987, as the point of references that have informed these reports, because Chihambakwe Commission, and particularly the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace of Report, and as well as the UNITA Code, these are the is important document that should give a backdrop analysis, a backdrop, you know, intellectual, political, you know, historical foundation for any issue to redress the issue of Gukurahundi. So when I saw that those reports were conspicuous by their absence, then for me, I doubted the sincerity of the government of Zimbabwe about addressing this issue. Also, coming to the reports itself, I think it is common knowledge, and also in the field of, be it in the field of medicine, be it in the field of politics, be it in the field of economics, and be in the field to do with society, with any events, that in order to come out with a solution on any challenges, on any problems, you need to diagnose, you need to have a correct diagnosis of that problem. So in this sense of this report, in order for the government of Zimbabwe to come out with a roadmap towards addressing the issue to do with the genocidal violence and genocidal injustices of Gukurahundi, the government of Zimbabwe must have diagnosed the problem as it is, because it is what I find in this report, isn't it? It is very problematic because it's being called Gukurahundi issues, and the letter G is missing there, Gukurahundi genocide. So what you find out now, there was a wrong diagnosis from the very beginning of this problem. So what you end up here, you're having a report which will apply symptoms to the problem rather than have a report which apply solutions to the problems. You know what I'm saying? So that was another factor as well, isn't it? So, all right, we now come to when I was reading this report, isn't it? I'll go to the human factor aspect of it. It's very problematic and very concerning that the government of Zimbabwe is delegating the responsibilities of addressing, Gukurahundi genocide to the chiefs, because the chiefs, the institution of chiefs in Zimbabwe, it's a highly partisan, it's highly corrupted, and it's a highly captured institution. It's an institution which has been highly politicized. It's an institution which has been captured by the executive, by the government of Zimbabwe. And then again, it strikes, doubt whether that institution will be able to professionally discharge its duties in terms of addressing the trauma, the historical trauma, terror, and injustices of Gukurahundi genocide. Because we have the president of the Chief Council himself, Fortune Chief Charumbira, has been out in the public to say that you support ZANU-PF, despite the constitution of Zimbabwe prescribing and barring chiefs to be openly partisan and to take a political position. And we've known that the chiefs have historically become, de facto political commissars of ZANU-PF when it comes to electioneering, political campaigns, distribution of food, and so forth. And we know that chiefs who house progressive and independent chiefs, who have dissenting voices, who have divergent views from the views established by the ZANU-PF government. We have seen them that they have been, terrorized and actually being lost their chieftainships. And a good example is a chief from, so what was the name again? So the chief from Matabeleland who lost his chieftain. So I'm just forgetting. Ndiweni, Chief Ndiweni. We saw what happened to Chief Ndiweni. So that was some of the major concern for me. And then when you look as well in terms of the civic society, also in terms of the civic society, also I did not see, government reaching out to CCJP, the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace, because they played a fundamental role, exposing and highlighting and publishing the brutality and the terrors of Gukurahundi genocide. I think that could have been very essential people to also include as part of the civic society. So when I was reading the report, I was actually looking for two letters, the letter G and the letter J. I was looking for the letter genocide, and I was looking for the word genocide, and I was looking for justice, for the word justice. I think it was up until the page 11. That's when I came across the word genocide, and the word genocide was just in passing, was just a mere footnote, was not over highly, publicized. And also on the page 10, that's when I came across the word restorative justice. And the word was just, these words, they were just mere in passing. They were not ever, highly publicized or ever emphasized, so to speak. So this becoming very quite challenging and so forth. So because what we need to understand here, while it is problematic for the government of Zimbabwe to do with this report, to just call it a Gukurahundi issue, because Gukurahundi was a genocide, and genocide by the nature, these are war crimes and a crime against humanity. And therefore, they demands, in order to resolve the issue of genocide, of Gukurahundi genocide. And we have seen it from other, previous experiences and so forth, even from the Nuremberg trial, from, International Criminal Tribunal for Yugoslavia and for former Yugoslavia, International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and so forth. That is a genocide in terms of transitional justice. They demands both trial-based mechanism and non-trial-based mechanism, that it demands both a prosecutory mechanism and non-prosecutory mechanism. So what I see from this report was an attempt by government of Zimbabwe to have a non-trial-based transitional mechanism to address the issue of Gukurahundi, a non-prosecutory mechanism of addressing the issue to do with the Gukurahundi. Then if the government of Zimbabwe was going to adopt a non-trial-based, mechanism of addressing Gukurahundi, then we're going to look here. Then it demands for government of Zimbabwe to address the issue to do with reparative justice, restorative justice, and transformative justice or redistributive justice in terms of the victims and the survivors of Gukurahundi. Oh, Do you want me to continue, sorry? Hello?
Yes, we are listening, Tawana. Maybe I can ask you a quick one there. Then I'll give...
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, you have raised this issue, the justice element. FE has raised it as well. But in circumstances where the government or government leaders are being fingered as being perpetrators, is it practical to expect the justice element to be part of the government-led initiative? Should people accept everything minus and park aside the issue of justice? Is it about taking, is it all or nothing kind of approach that people should take then?
I think Muzala, Effie had raised a very good point that this is very unprecedented in Zimbabwe or in the history of transitional justice. That most transitional justice systems occurred in post. They are usually conducted by post-genocidal regimes. If you look at the issue of Rwanda, it was the post-genocidal regime of Paul Kagame. And if you look at even the Nuremberg trials, it was post-genocidal regime in Germany, which and the international community which did those transitional justice systems. And also, if you look at the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, it was the post-genocidal regimes which did that transitional justice. I think, Mzala, what you want to see, what we need to understand it here, whether the government of Zimbabwe likes it or not, they cannot avoid the issue of justice. Justice is inseparable to the issue of Gukurahundi genocide. Then it all depends. Then you start to look at the qualitative aspect of justice. Even with this report, I can see that this government is an attempt by the Zimbabwean government to to have some form of restorative justice and reparative justice for the victims of Gukurahundi. Do you get what I'm saying? But then we have to question now the qualitative aspect of that justice. That is it a real justice, or is it just a politicking, or is it just the government of Zimbabwe giving a facade that they're addressing the issue of Gukurahundi with the ultimate goal of them to gain political mileage, electoral mileage in Matabeleland? So the issue of justice is unavoidable. It's inseparable. There's no way they can tackle this issue. That's why in this report, they just mention it in passing, restorative justice. That's why in this report, even though it was not emphasized, the government of Zimbabwe talks about restorative justice.
Do you know, Zala, with Utawana saying that, I can actually see it in the report, because when you consider the list that you summarized earlier, there's no real suggestion about getting justice, but although they're saying the report is focused on getting a solution for the victims, justice doesn't necessarily seem to be part of that thing that's put there. And then there's also another thing, where I think it was on page 7 or something, where they talk about the fact that even some of the chiefs are victims of this issue. There's a part that talks about traditional leaders shouldn't represent themselves as agents of the state because of the fact that the state is viewed as the perpetrator. So I don't know how they would look to get justice in this particular situation when they're actually removing it from the whole exercise. But there was another thing that I wanted to point to Tawana. Tawana, there's a paragraph, I don't know if you recall looking at it. It was on page 22 when he was talking about, let me just quickly read it for you guys. Okay. It talks about the president of the National Council of Chiefs indicates that the chief's mandate was derived from the Constitution in terms of Section 281 and the Traditional Leaders Act, which mandates to chiefs to resolve disputes within their jurisdiction and promote culture of peace and reconciliation. Moreover, the head of state has mandated the National Council of Chiefs to resolve the matter. He indicates that the institution of chiefs was derived from God and that the structures that exist have been distorted due to colonization. I don't know what you think after reading that.
Okay, I think, they talk about the section 281, which of the Constitution, which empowers them to, to be arbiters or to be to resolve some of the, social and cultural issues within their jurisdiction. Yeah, fair enough. But then I'm going to link that to my next point, what I'm going to say. I think, and it was raised as well by the civic society. If you look at the report of the civic society, because for me, it's also problematic and very concerning for me that this report, that there is no legislative architecture to support, the quest to redress, the genocidal terror and injustices of Gukurahundi. Professor Jonathan Moyo in 2000, if I'm not wrong, 2006 or 2007, when he became an independent MP for Cholocho, he tabled the idea of Gukurahundi Bail. And I think the civic society in this report, they talked about that issue of there should have been an act of parliament that support, any government initiative to address the issue of genocide of Gukurahundi. I think this is very quite important because this is a ZANU-PF report, driven by ZANU-PF report. And next year, we are going to have 2023 elections. What happened when if ZANU-PF lose elections and there is maybe CCC or MDC becomes a new governing party? Obviously, they come on board with their own legislative agenda, with their own political manifestos and everything to champion. And this report is just going to be discarded because there's no legislative architecture to support it. This is what I'm saying. I doubt the sincerity and the seriousness of Zimbabwean government. Like what he said, that it's very difficult for the perpetrators of genocide to actually be sincere and have the political will to address these crimes against humanity, these war crimes. You get what I'm saying? Because if there was a Gukurahundi Act, even 50 years from now and everything, that's an act of parliament. Any government or whatsoever will be legally obliged to address the issue of Gukurahundi, be it in the form of reparative, restorative justice, and so forth. Right now, you see the Jews, third or fourth generations of the Jews, they're still getting reparations from the genocide of the Holocaust they suffered, because there was a legal architecture which supported them, that even succeeding generations which have no historical links to the Nazi Holocaust, to Hitlerite genocidal terror, but they've got international obligations to provide reparations and justice for the victims, for the what do you call it? For the victims of the Holocaust. That's why up to present now you find out maybe 90-year-old, 100-year-old, perpetrators of Nazi Holocaust are being brought before, international crime tribunals for the crime of genocide. This is what I'm saying, that despite the chief being empowered by that, having that constitutional provisions, but still it's not good enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Taona. Bushe, please be patient. We'll give you a chance. We wanted to wrap up with our main speakers before opening the floor. We have lost Thomas Zivisa, unfortunately. I will then give Zenzele a brief opportunity to react to what Effie and Taona have said. Then we can open the floor after that.
Thanks, Mzala. Yeah, I think largely the two speakers and briefly Mazivisa raise issues that many people are pointing to, like the issues of the timelines, the legal issues, the issue of justice, but also I think maybe let me say at this point in time the fact that what makes the issue of Gukurahundi complicated in Zimbabwe is that the perpetrator is still in power. And definitely they are not going to talk about justice because they won't take themselves to any court of law. But what I find, I'm not sure whether these guys really mean it, because if the chiefs are going to go to the communities and talk, people are going to talk. You know, over the years, I think my first, I started researching on Gukurahundi around 2006. Between 2006 and 2008, it was so difficult to go to communities and talk to people about Gukurahundi because people didn't want to talk about it. They were so scared to talk about it. The first documentary that we did, actually, we showed it in Botswana and in South Africa because it was not possible to launch the documentary in Zimbabwe. The government was not going to allow it to happen. So South Africa and Botswana became, you know, the options. But over the years, people have started talking about this issue. Civil society, the media, and everyone has put on pressure to talk about this issue. And slowly, you know, at a very small pace, these spaces are opening up where people are talking about it. The government acknowledges it. I mean, they started at the extreme far end where they were saying, we're not going to do this. This is, I mean, in 2018, they were saying, let bygones be bygones. This issue was dealt with by Mugabe and Nkomo. But they are coming to the table screaming and kicking and putting all conditions, but they are coming. So what I would say is, let's put the pressure on. Let's talk about this issue. Let's highlight these issues that, no, you're talking about this process, but it's not perfect. This is what we want. They will break down because we will not stop talking about it. And we have seen the small progress that we have made over the years on this issue.
Okay, Zenzele, on the issue of justice, to what extent does the pardoning of people who participated in the Gukurahundi genocide, to what extent does it get into the justice issue where, for example, government may say, no, everyone who participated in one way or another was pardoned by President Mugabe. There was a proclamation saying everyone who participated was pardoned. That closes the justice chapter. What's your take on that?
Yeah, currently the government, of course, is hiding behind the issue of the pardon, that the people who were involved in Gukurahundi were pardoned in I think it was around April or May 1988. So although as an international crime, that pardon there's always a way of, you know, repealing it. But currently that's what they're using. And of course, the fact that they are in power, they're the ones who pardoned the perpetrators. So the issue of justice to them doesn't arise at the moment. And we've heard even Ziambi talking about, you know, the fact that they won't, I mean, they were pardons and all these kind of things. So I think we should look at this thing as complicated as it is in kind of stages. What is it that we can do now? It has been 40 years after the genocide happened. Very little took place. I mean, Mugabe tried all sorts of things. They were, of course, in 2000, Mugabe also met the chiefs in Tabazinduna, proposed that the chiefs go and meet their people, come up with a list of things that the people want. That never got anywhere. Just before the 2000 elections, there was a committee that met at Davis Hall, a ZANU-PF committee that met at Davis Hall and talked about, you know, solving the issue of Gukurahundi. Nothing happened. So the chiefs might be. So for now, first of all, we need to call the president on his bluff if he's bluffing. Let the chiefs go out, consult the people, bring the report and say, here is the report. It will be the 10th report and see what happens. So let's do things that my approach will be, if people need IDs, let them get them. If people need reburials, let them get them. And then we then say, okay, we have done A, B, C, D, what is left? Because as long as ZANU is in power, there will never be a one-size-fits-all when it comes to the issue of Gukurahundi.
Zenzele, from your perspective, do you think the government will fund facilitating these chiefs to fulfill this exercise?
That is a good question, because they said they are going to bring resources. One, it's not clear how they are going to bring the resources. Are they going to give the chiefs? I mean, already the chiefs are using vehicles that are issued by government. So the funding that they can do to make it easy is to make sure that they give the chiefs fuel. They support the chiefs, because if you are going to record people, there has to be a mechanism of secretariat who's going to be collecting the reports and compiling them. There are some chieftainships that are quite huge that they will need to move from one point to another. So daily, after the chief and his Nata comrades and his religious leaders have set as a panel, compiled documents, how are they going to do it? So let's take this as the example of the constitution making process. When COPAC met, there were a lot of issues that ZANU did not want. But because of pressure, they ended up agreeing to those. But the good thing with COPAC, there was a template. So right now, what the chiefs need is, I see there's a manual that they're supposed to follow. So there needs to be a format in which the chiefs will say what happened, from here, what will happen, and also a timeline. When the chiefs have compiled, what happens? Where does it go?
Yeah, I thought perhaps we're going to touch, our speakers were also going to touch on the manual, because it's a bit detailed and it gives a step-by-step guide on how the chiefs are going to collect the data, information, and interview people. It also gives them principles and guidelines on how they are to operate. My only challenge with it was the fact that you will see that it says there must be the composition of that panel is the traditional leaders, chiefs, headmen, and village heads, 2 religious leaders, 3 cultural leaders, and then the community at large. So I don't see any experts there, because they talk about issues of counseling, how to approach. For example, I can't imagine women explaining how they were raped to their chiefs and headmen. I thought perhaps there was going to be a provision for experts who would deal with that in a professional manner and all that. We'll hear what others have to say about the manual, its shortcomings, and I don't know what your reaction is, Zenzel, to that.
Yeah, I saw where they talk about the need for counseling and the other aspects, because there are areas where they talk about referring issues, like on counseling, they're saying to provide counseling services and psychological support to women. So there is mentioning of counseling there. Then I'm looking at the situation where they're talking about referring people with special cases. In an event that a non-victim by the community fails to appear in engagement, it is recommended that the chief may instruct his messenger or accompany to them. Then they talk about the other people who, the issues of rape. A chief must take cognizance of special groups in order for them to participate. These are alleged direct victims, alleged cases of sodomy, alleged torture, but they don't explain how these people are going to be accommodated. Because the problem with rape, the problem with sodomy and torture is that some people were tortured by people who are living with them in the communities. So if they are saying that the chiefs should take cognizance of these people and make sure that they fully participate, what support are they giving? You know, can you come and re-traumatize yourself by saying publicly that I was raped by so and so and he's sitting over there? Then what happens after that?
Okay, lastly is Ensele. The one other issue that I saw coming out strong on the report is the issue of ZIPRA properties and memorabilia. If you look at the president's response to that, he says he has established a channel between himself and the ZIPRA people. That channel is the one that must be used to resolve ZIPRA issues, issues of their properties and all that. It will not be part of the broader Gukurahundi issues. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, he straightforward said that there is a channel. The problem with Zipra as well is that also, over years now, naturally, there are now different people who belong to different Zipra factions. So you then find that, there are so many Zipra properties, this, Zipra, that, and the lack of unity within the Zipra entity has made it easier for government to move these guys from pillar to post, because I know some guys have taken the issue to court, some are negotiating, some have approached the chiefs. So because of these different groupings with different leaderships, it becomes easier for government to say, no, we have established a Zipra committee. There was a committee, I think in 2018, some of the guys went to see President Mnangagwa. There were issues that they were agreed upon, but while they were negotiating, the late parents Shiri took the farms like Nijo, gave them to ZANU-PF. Just last week, another group of Zipra guys went to court because they are now saying that Nijo property, which was given to ZANU has then given it to Scott and Tagwere, according to the court papers that were filed by Zipra guys. So it's another issue that is very complicated, but it's not going to be part of the issues that are going to be addressed by the chiefs.
Manjem,
yes, okay.
I was going to say, is Zipra Layo? They're saying that the president is not engaging on the platform that he gave them to engage. I think they've suggested failed attempts to actually facilitate the discussions. Because
they've said in some cases he initially engaged and then later on there was no movement. So yeah, if you are negotiating, then someone takes your property and gives it to someone, it shows that they are not negotiating in good faith. And also the issue of the properties is now, it's quite complex. There are a lot of complexities. It needs a space on its own.
Oh, okay, thank you so much, Essenzele. We will now open the floor to everyone who wants to contribute in the space, especially Buhle. Your hand has been up. Please send your request. We'll accept it immediately. And everyone else who wants to speak, we'll try Mazivisa in the meantime. I hope he will manage. Mazivisa, over to you.
Hello, Mzala Tom and all the participants.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Mapoko, can you hear Mazivisa?
Iyala
Mazivisa. Yeah.
I repeat, I am intermittently.
Ayana Mazivisa.
I think Oguhle he had already given us a disclaimer that there was is it an electric cut
by the president?
Yes, Ute Agula Maketsi and all. Yeah, we will take Deborah, and afterwards we have Bushe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Manje, it's difficult to say we can hear you and we can't hear you because it's both, Mazivisa. I don't know if you can send maybe a recorded message to Umzala of your input and then we can share it on the platform.
Yeah, he has actually lost, we have lost his connection now. Let's go ahead with Deborah and Bushe.
Thank you so much for accepting Ilokuze. My apologies, I came in a bit late. All the age is catching up. I forgot all about it, which is something that I really wanted to put as a comment. I'm looking at the time now. of these things happening. I'm not saying this process should not happen, but I'm looking at this thing, Ama chiefs going out and talking to people. Who are they talking to? Most of the people that were affected, that are actually the people with the messages that they can put across, they are in their 70s. How much can they remember? And how much information are they going to give that is different from what we've actually picked up? To me, this is another way of just buying time and watering down the whole purpose of actually doing this whole Gukurahundi thing. Because how many reports have been written? By the time my chiefs wrap up and completely all these particular all these things that are supposed to be done, my elections are saying you. Should ZANU-PF win those elections, those reports might actually go under the table again. While they're in power, they might actually forget about them. So really, I don't know. I didn't get the whole full story as people are talking. Later, I'll listen later. But to me, I think we need to start forging forward. Forget about what people are saying, because we actually have the nitty-gritties of what is actually supposed to be having here. People are looking for justice. People are looking for repercussions. People are looking for somebody to hang somewhere and be responsible for these things. Those are the actual things that we are all saying, can they happen? Most people might not even want compensation at the moment, because abantu abafuna compensation, some of them are dead, some of them are too old, some of them don't know what they would do with whatever compensation they have. But we are saying whatever is happening, we are looking at issues of injustice. We are looking at issues of somebody standing up and apologizing, not just saying it was a moment of madness. That is not enough. Abazukulu bami, they will still expect somebody to apologize for their grandparents for having gone through whatever they've gone through. But I don't know. I think it's another gimmick here, government. Would be able to buy time. They seem to be doing something. Bengazuza amavota bawine. That's forgotten. Bengaluza, it becomes somebody else's baby, and it's a waste of resources and time, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Bushe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the chance to speak. I don't know if you can hear me because my network is funny. Please confirm.
No, you are very clear. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I have a couple of points, but I think before I even go there, I just wanted to share, like, just a disclaimer that for me, this is very personal, because it was very personal for my mother, who passed away last year, right? So my mother had cousins who lived the Chiefs Paper area in Cholocho, right? So, when we were growing up, people normally would usually like talk about what happened. And we had a relative in the family who died in her 40s. So after the trauma, because then she was raped, I think by 5-6 men, like the 5th Brigade, Bonalabo. After that incident, she couldn't even talk. So, she then, I think it was because of the trauma, but also because how then I think even as families, you don't know what to do. At some point, she was admitted in Ngucheni. I think her issue was like complicated. So, I mean, she died when I was much older. So it was only when I was much older that I understood she had suffered from trauma, because I think she couldn't even, I don't think she ever uttered a word actually after that, right? So for me, it's those things. And I remember my mother talking about it many years later. And the only wish was that she would have wanted for someone to actually apologize to the family, right? And I think that's like for most of the people in that area were like, look, we're not really looking for government to give us anything, but I think just that acknowledgement, just that's someone like the sort of respect to say, look, we acknowledge something happened, we apologize for your loss. That never happened. She died last year. So I think that's one of the things that, if there's anything she was bitter about, that would be one of them, because I mean, she talk about it from time to time. So now on to talk about I didn't even read the report. because as far as I'm concerned, there's been many of these things, many of these processes that government has come up with over the years, like, and it's usually, you know, a couple of months towards elections, you know, something comes up, and so it doesn't matter whether it's the ruling party or the opposition. So for me, it's about feeling, I feel that this process is not being done in good faith. I don't think this is something that is genuine, because if it was, I mean, I've been listening to, for example, Zenzel talking about there's no timeline. No, good people are in pain. And this is like trauma, right? People are traumatized. So you keep going there, offering them little bits of something so that, you know, they think something's happening, and then before they know it, their elections, right? So I don't think this is a genuine thing, but look, it's one area where I'd really love to be proved wrong, right? My next point would be just the language that is being used. I listened when I think Tawana was saying it's being called the Gukurahundi issue. For me, you know, language matters. Words matter. What do you mean when you call it the Gukurahundi issue? Because when he was saying it that way, I felt like how I feel when, because I'm a feminist, that's another disclaimer. I felt exactly the same way I feel when you're in a room full of men and a few women, and you're talking about something that is very important to you as a woman, as a feminist, and then they're just dismissed as, nah, you know, it's women's issues, because that already tells you the attitude. But we are not taking you seriously. Okay, we can sort of give you 5 minutes to listen, but we don't really think that this is really a serious thing. And for me, another very important issue is the process. I don't think that this process is inclusive. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're having a process that is not inclusive, then you already have a problem there, right? Because where are the chiefs? I got the sense that there will be the chiefs interviewing people in the communities. Is this what the communities want, though? Because for me, there are processes that have taken place in other countries. Yeah, so what did those countries do? Why is it that Zimbabwe wants to come up with something new? Like, why do you want to reinvent the wheel? These things have been done before. But obviously, we're not really doing copy and paste. We are saying, if there's a template somewhere, take that template and then adjust it accordingly. I don't think this has been done. And for me, already the process is not inclusive. Because again, I mean, if we are dealing with people who are accused of perpetrating the violence, and they are leading the process, like, really, I mean, I don't see how exactly that is going to work. So I think if this was a genuine process, there would have been some sort of structure that was put in place to look at all these things. And before we get like the report and things like that, there should have been a process where all the areas that have been affected, people would have been consulted, right? So that it's clear, so that when government sits down and says, right, so this is what we're going to do now, they already have an idea of what people want. Because for example, one of my issues I have is you expect, I'm not sure how this is going to work, because if you're expecting 65-year-old woman to stand up and say in a space with, like, I don't know how many people, and she stands up and says, oh yes, I was raped. How does that work? I mean, I work in the women's rights sector, and we all know what happens. I mean, even online, I think Twitter, for example, you see what happens. Someone comes out, a woman comes up and says they've been raped, there's stigma attached to it. They get all sorts of insults hurled at them. So is that what they're expected to do? Because I think for me, why are you necessarily having the chiefs leading the process? I would rather have other people, whoever they are, leading the process, then obviously making sure that it is inclusive. It is as inclusive as possible, because already, I mean, my perceptions about traditional leaders is that you know, they are very partisan. from what we've seen in previous elections, for example. And also these are people who are said to be custodians of culture, of whatever culture means. And we, as a feminist, I can tell you most of the things, actually, the cultural practices, the norms really are not friendly for the women. So how are they going to deal with the violence against women? Because we have a lot of violence against women, and you also expect someone to stand up and say, "Oh no, I have a grandchild who is a result of rape." Then this grandchild is going to go back to the same community with the stigma, and what's going to happen to them? So I don't. For me, I'm saying this thing is not genuine because it doesn't look like there was any thought put towards it. I think government needed to do more. But like I'm saying, this is one area where I'll be very happy to be proved wrong, because I think, look, there's a lot of processes that have gone on in the past. But again, for me, I know that there are reports. There are reports that over the years have been produced. Why are those reports not being looked at? Why is it that government wants to continue this process of... Because I think for me, one of the problems I have with this process is that I'm not getting the sense that government is treating this with the seriousness that it deserves. It's, for me, it's sounding like it's playing into... And I mean, look, I think it's playing into, if I remember correctly, from as far back as like 2002, before the presidential elections, before the elections were harmonized.
Sorry, but I'm gonna have to ask you to wind down so that we can also get other speakers on board.
Okay, no, that's fine.
So if you can say
no, that's fine. It's okay.
Okay, but say on the issue of the apology, if you get the report, just look at page 18. It says, number one, an acknowledgement was not an issue of contention with the government. However, an apology remained an issue of contention, even during the consultations of the 23 stakeholders. Yeah, so you find some of these answers in the report. Mapoko, you can take our next speaker.
Mzala, can I just have a quick comment on the issue of apology?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay, that's fine. Yes, yes. What is also troubling and problematic as well in terms of that apology, what you said, what you quoted from that report, was that what I find it very concerning was the fact that the government also went on further, say that the government was actually outsourcing its responsibility to apologize to apologize for the victims of Gukurahundi to the chiefs, because it says in the report that yes, if the government is going to apologize, the chief is going to apologize on behalf of the government. That's like sincerity. This is showing that the chief perpetrators, the government itself, there's a disconnect with the government in terms of its genuineness and sincerity to resolve the trauma and the pain of Gukurahundi genocide, because it's refusing to apologize, but it just want to acknowledge. Is it because they know that once the government apologizes, if you apologize for its role in Gukurahundi, it has got legal, ramifications both at domestically and internationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawana. Mapoko, how do we manage our speakers? There are quite a lot. How do we manage this situation now?
Okay, so mina senza icela ama-speakers ethu ukuthi please be kind with your time. Maybe if you just compress contribution, altogether I think there's about 8 of you, and we're trying to finish by 9 p.m. Central African time. But if we can go to Mduduzi, then we have Mthulisi next, and Mr. Nkala after him. So Mduduzi, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. The first thing about this whole issue is that it is a worrisome issue in the sense that the main perpetrator is bringing the issue back to the victims, and the very same perpetrator wants to preside over the issues that are meant to appease the affected victims. And secondly, the chiefs that are being used A chief is not an individual, but a chief is a chief because of the people they preside over in their communities. So as long as there is no involvement of the people themselves, then this whole issue is just a useless one, because there are plenty of irregularities there that are visible in this whole issue. And the third one is a question to say, why now, when people have been yearning and crying for all this to be done, and because someone wants to take advantage of the very aggrieved people, the people who are trodden on, who are seriously victimized. The fourth issue, I'm now trying to rush through because there is no time. The fourth issue is, these very same people who are affected can only be appeased if this perpetrator, who is the government, or who are certain individuals who were the technocrats of this whole issue, do accept that, first of all, do accept that there was this thing that happened, and there is still this thing that is happening, because Gukurahundi is not an era that happened and passed. Gukurahundi is a system that was crafted by the time it started happening immediately after gaining independence. It still continues to affect people from a particular region. And the other issue, I'm now trying to rush through, the other issue is Chief Charumbira, who comes with certain high-ranked government officials, including His Excellency, to come and preside over Matabeleland chiefs. He is also among the people who are perpetrators, because he is a seed of that same system. He comes from that very region that planned this whole thing and implemented it, and they continue implementing it in various forms. So this whole issue, as long as it is not given due attention that gives satisfaction in the way things will be dealt with, it is just a non-starter to the people of the region. It is only done to try and catapult someone's hopes to cling on to certain powers and to keep on benefiting from the resources of a particular region, including the people themselves. Yet those very same affected people will continue to be disadvantaged. All that is being said about Gukurahundi is not meant to benefit people from the Midlands, people from the Matabeleland region. It is only meant to try and calm down these people so that the government and certain individuals continue stealing resources and continue suppressing these people from this region. So in a nutshell, it doesn't benefit Matabeleland people. It is only meant to come and suppress them more. It is only meant to come and indoctrinate them so that they accept and they feel like they are part of the very same government that is suppressing them, that is killing them day in, day night. So it is just useless. If they are serious about this issue, they should use.
Thank you, Mduduzi. Asinika abanye phela ithuba baba. Sikuzwile kahle. Thank you.
Next stop, Mthulisi, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mapoko. I hope I'll go straight to my point. I have just one issue to raise, the issue of economic reparations. I think companies that the government took over. I think we posted the list of companies. Let's figure about 30 or 35. You will correct me about the correct numbers there. Those are some of the benefits economically as a hambayo from the Gukurahundi action. Secondly, there is also property that was lost. ECCJP Kuluma, he estimated $68 million property lost during that time. And the property on Aleo hasn't been recovered. They have tried this and that, but it's not possible.
Yeah, I need you are referring to Zipra properties.
Yeah, it's Zipra. And you are going to downstream.
Yes.
Funds. Yeah,
Yes.
families on allow, they form part and parcel of a society that lost the economic benefits. For now, as it was with Papilangan, but we assume probably Papil. I don't know whether they have pensions from the government, because that's another aspect again. Ukuthi lizakhumbula ukuthi kulama reports, lama minutes that state ukuthi a lot of former Zipra fighters were demobilized from the army. So that is one of the areas again because abantu bona lawo bagcina bengasela income. They don't have income. They didn't have income then. They don't have income now. And then the other aspect is the general development of the region, because Kanyela is college name. Most of the schools that are in Matepleland were built by us. Little did government do in terms of doing that, because you look at the schools that are dotted around the region, Zezani, Chavez, Matopo Mission, Tekwani, and things like that. Most of those schools are built by church organizations. And some of the schools are built by communities themselves. I come from a community where we built a school ourselves. So there is little that has been happening in that direction in terms of, then the other issue is employment. I've already mentioned there was a lot of demobilization among former fighters from the civil service. And it has not got better, because the civil service, any Kumatebele region, as it is, go there now. Our people are not part and parcel of the establishment of civil service. Talk of it, deployment itself is done centrally. So there are a lot of economic benefits that the government can actually embark on to try and correct some of the problems that we are seeing right now because of the actions that Gukurahundi had. Economic loss is a second phase of Gukurahundi, so that has to be addressed really, because we lost lives, yes, but economically it can still be reparated.
Thank you so much, Mtulisi. Who is our next speaker, Maboko?
Oh, Mr. Canisius Ngala.
Good evening.
Siyakuzwa.
Okay, ngiyabonga. Mina nguKhanisius Nkala, Secretary for Elections for iZAPU, eMatebeleni South Province. Mina, my issue that I have is sometimes it surprises us. The chiefs that were there during the time that wanted to talk, for example, chiefs like the late Senator Chief Augustine Masugu, the late Ukaisa, the late Umafu, and other chiefs that were there that wanted to talk, were not given that chance. Now that it is the children, or even the children of the people that actually were there, now they are trying to rope us by bringing in our chiefs that they know that those chiefs were not there, that they know that those chiefs were not directly affected at that very time, yet those that were directly affected were there. We have seen this issue narrative change. We have now certain people that are going around trying to compare in between the sitting president and the sitting Sekeramai's contribution on Gukurahundi. Then somehow trying to apportion the blame. So this thing is like someone is trying to play with our minds and play a certain way of trying to play politics with our brains. Azama ukutshintsha izinto lezi ukuthi zihendlwe ngabantu that are going to be having a hearsay, and at the end of the day, without much of evidence and without much of the knowledge of izinto ezenzakalayo, recounting them with time and everything. Lokhu ukuthi bathi bona ama-chiefs akhona khathesi they can handle that, it is because they feel ukuthi the chiefs that are there, they are not sufficient enough to challenge them. And then I'll come back again to say, it's the same thing. If these people say they fought the war of independence, one of the things they fought for was the re-establishment of the traditional centers that were there. That means the re-establishment of Ama kingships and others, of which I expect Mzala Tom one day to actually bring in that subject of ukuthi kanti walwelwani. Was it not part of that Ama kingdoms that were there, the kingships that were there? Because now the chiefs are serving under a government, and serving under a government, that wants to go back into Commonwealth because they want us to serve under a queen, which is exactly what we fought against. As ZAPU, we are very much disappointed in these knights, or what I would call sellouts, because I will call it out as it is. People that are actually telling people they fought for independence, but they are the very people that are gatekeeping, or the very people that are actually stopping what was fought for by the people, what the people are rightfully supposed to restore as a culture in their areas, the restoration of the kings and everything. They are telling you the constitution. What about the constitution? That is what we fought for against. When people were saying constitution and we said our rights are better than constitution. So that is my contribution for today. Thank you.
Spongile, Mr. Nkala, we're gonna go to, I don't know if I can see them here. Okay, I can't see them. Mercy, it's over to you.
After Mercy, it's Dr. Ncube.
Ngiyabonga nkosazana Maboko nowethu mzala. Mina I'll just stick to the semantics that are being used in the report and the gimmickry that is happening ku report yona le. And then what its intentions to me read out to be. It seems the avoidance, I'm glad ukuthi I can't remember the utawona spelled out ukuthi there were key words that he was looking for as he went through the report. And the seriousness of why those words needed to be in that in that particular report, it shows the gravity in which the government is taking this issue, the seriousness of it. So the avoidance of those words, to me, were deliberate. The avoidance of the use of word genocide, the avoidance of the word justice in that report shows the intention of the government. It is neither to establish what this issue is, and there's reason why it does so. It does so that when it engages the victim in discussing what this is, it cements for itself in the future what the victim said it was, but it actually coerced the victim to define it. So by allowing the victim to sit and discuss this issue under the banner of calling it an incident, it is asking the victim's buy-in to calling it that, such that in the future, should the victim not be there, the advocates of the victim cannot advocate for what the victim did not initially agree to. The government will consistently say, wena, as the person who was not the victim cannot call this what it was not called by the victim. I hope it makes sense. It's leaving it deliberately. So in the future, the word genocide cannot be used to define this. So it trivializes it to an incident, as if the system that carried it over, not as an event that happened over one season, no, multiple seasons over many years, can just be trivialized to just an incident or an issue, and not a genocide. And the reason the word genocide is also omitted, because once it is established that it is what it is, then it forces the community or the nation to deal with it as its definition, which would be to deal with the aftermath of what a genocide creates, which is a systemic issue. So now all the discrimination, the inequality that the victims will now speak to would have to tackle it from a systemic point of view. And the government of Zimbabwe has always been dismissive to call tribalism a systemically created issue in Zimbabwe for the purposes of another intention, to discriminate over another group by creating a system. So you can't call it a genocide.
Thank you, Mercy, for your contribution. That's thought-provoking as well. Isikhathi sis. Okay. I will move to the next speaker, which is Dr. Ncube. Then we have Meluleki and Luxon as our last speaker. Over to you, Dr. Ncube.
Maboko, Liangiswa. Thank you so much. I'll try to run through my points and be quick. The first thing is engayisho ukuthi ungabala i-report le without the context, there is a lot that we may miss. So i-headline contribution yami isekuthini As a people, we should know when to declare victory in a battle and then move towards the war. So declare victory. And I think this is victory in this context. Nxa uma elizwile umfowethu uBudas u-Effie ekhuluma, he gave a historical account of indaba leyi from lapho eyasukela khona. And this is what is missing again in this report, a background. But we're lucky here because we, summarized it for us. But also, Uzenzele mentioned ukuthi the operating context was difficult, and ekhuluma ngendaba yama-film that he could not show here in Zimbabwe. And Ubra City, alleged perpetrators law or perpetrators are local in power. This is very important context. So it gets us to say why, in this context, is ZANU or President Mnangagwa, why does he want to do it now? If you look at the electoral map as Zimbabwe Kates, ZANU is not under threat in Matebele. And looking from 2013 returns, 2018 by-elections, ZANU, if you use that trajectory, ZANU really will win. So it's not about the elections. The question is, what is it for? Then my last part of my submission is I think we have to declare a win. Why am I saying so? Those who have worked on this issue, or Zenzele, or Effie and others, Zomzala, know that, in fact, calling it Gukurahundi, they didn't want to call it that, they're calling it disturbances. So the language has changed. You remember again, even in the devolution, they wanted to do decentralization, but devolution is now in vogue. We are winning the battle of ideas. But the issue is it enough? The answer is no. So there are three elements that we need to focus on: truth, which these hearings can contribute part to. So we need to record them, but we need to see again with the putting pressure or with the declassification of our documentary government in the next coming years on its deployment of Gukurahundi, on our Zimbabwe report. Secondly, immemorialization in the ends while ama plaques or ama film, ama books. The last thing, which is justice, which is not there, but you can see that incrementally we are winning this battle of ideas. So sing really attrition, but the work is not yet done. We are getting there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. We'll go to Meluleki. Meluleki, if you can unmute and contribute, please. Okay.
BK can jump in then.
Thank you very much, Mzala Lomapoko, for this very, very, very insightful space. Sacela, which may be listening another 2 hours next week just for the questions. If the panel that was there, if they can come back next week or whatever time you have, because I think 2 hours was very this card is limited and everything, but the 2 hours I like you saw, like a lot of people came in.
Abantu bagcina sebewumana, BK. People lose focus. We'll be talking so many things, but if we limit and concentrate on the core topic, issues clearly come out.
Okay. So my thing was, the question I'd like to ask is, who is part of Matebeleland Collective? Because I've heard about them. I know there is who was the Women of Africa.
That's very interesting, BK, because I don't think they were specified on the report.
We really need to know who they are. Like somebody said, we could have relationships between some of these CSOs, Lamanyama perpetrators of Gukurahundi. But my thing is, it's been 42 years since Zimbabwe gained independence. ZANU was formed because they didn't want to be led by a Ndebele person. So ZANU, basically when they came in 1980, they knew ukuthi uNkomo ZAPU, they're going to be a very strong force in Zimbabwean politics. ZAPU also knew ukuthi when ZANU gets into power, they'll probably come after them. And that's why even in demobilization, ZAPU bought all these companies. I think ZAPU somehow foresaw that there was going to be marginalization. If they can marginalize umuntu Joshua Nkomo, ukuthi is Ndebele, can't lead is official opposition in Zimbabwe. What more the people from Matabeleland? So I think ZAPU like bought those properties, Labo Zipra, to make sure that okay, economically, Matabeleland can be as much as they can be independent from our forces, our state. So all those properties were taken deliberately because once you strangulate a community or a region of the country economically, right, they cannot have sustainable processes of making sure that, okay, the people in that region are employed, the culture, what okay, it's impacted, you know, because once you've got, let's say, economic means, right, to hold them cultural festivals. If you're economically independent, you've got the funds to make sure that cultural festivals keep going on. If which like distort Zimbabwean history, they can be like other books that are being printed, history of ZAPU or history of Zimbabwe, languages, you know, you maybe finding ways of making sure, okay, you're not allowed the radio, TV, and things like that, or the propaganda that's coming in. But if you've got economical means, there are ways of trying to push back against and pretty much nationalized ZAPU's Zipra properties. And what I'd like to know is, has there anyone who has gone in and done calculations or estimates when those properties were taken by ZANU-PF, how much were they worth? And if those companies continued operating the farms, the hotels, parks, the zoos and everything, if they continued operating up to today, how much money would they have made? And economically, how would that have impacted the Matabeleland? I swear to you, the number of people who have left Matabeleland for greener pastures, if ZAPU had kept those companies or Zipra had kept those companies, it would be a different story altogether. Even economy Matabeleland, it would be a different story altogether. But ZANU-PF played the long game. They knew what they wanted to do. And if that is not addressed pretty much in what the chiefs are trying to do, and for me as well, is the capacity. What capacity is being provided to these chiefs to carry out this work? Because it's a lot. Thank you very much again. I appreciate it, Mr. Tom. But again, if we can have another 2 hours, just questions and answers session. That's all. Thank you very much.
Khonapho vele BK sungezelela isikhathi sethu nge5 minutes ngakudala siqede. No. Okay. But
we have Luxon.
Yeah, we've got Luxon, but I just wanted to find out from you, collective, does that include the CSOs and faith-based organizations? Because they are listed in the report. But yeah, over to you.
Yes, they are. If you look at page, is it 23 of the report, there is a list of people that were consulted. You'll find different organizations. Then there are individuals where in front it's written Matabeleland Collective. Then you still find organizations like EFZ, Trinity Project, Zipra, Woza, Grace to Heal, Basilizi Trust, Ipechuliga Zulu. So I don't know the ones that fall under the collective because the report doesn't explain that part.
To you, Mr. Ndlovu, please.
Thank you very much, Mkitiga. Thank you, 100%. I think we can all agree that Gukurahundi was a crime against humanity. I mean, I've always posed in a statement that says, to some of us born in the 80s, we must always ask ourselves the question that, Are we really children of our fathers? We all know what I mean by that. So it is a good thing that the subject of Gukurahundi is being openly discussed, albeit with this distorted framework. But I mean, let us use those lemons to make lemonade. But then we need to move forward. How do we move forward? I mean, I'm saying we must put all our energy to help our people to move forward as a region. Gukurahundi developed the underdevelopment of Matebeleland, thereby proving correct the theory of unquantified probability of having resumed the rest of life. I mean, imagine between 82 to 87, schools in Matebeleland were not operating, while in other parts of the country, children were going to school uninterrupted. Imagine somebody who was supposed to go to high school when Gukurahundi started. They had to wait for 5 years for school to reopen. I mean, what are the chances that they continued with their studies after those years? When schools reopened, they lost guardians who would have paid their school fees, among other factors. For someone, here's the guts to tell us that Matebelers are not educated or Ndebelers are not educated. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Gukurahundi set us backwards in terms of, I always say, I mean, it's good we all agreeing to that. Economic growth, population growth, and of course, education, among other factors. In economic growth, we spend days being told that Ndebele means this and that, but the economy of our people was adversely affected by Gukurahundi. It will take years and years to work to revamp our economic prospects. If this government is serious about discussing the Gukurahundi subject, they must extremely consider economic empowering our parents with some sort of reparations to mend the gap which was lost of more opportunities due to Gukurahundi. I spoke about population growth. We are continuously being told that our region is underpopulated. The number of people killed during Gukurahundi remains speculatively understated. But apart from that, how do we recoup the numbers lost by producing more children if we cannot feed nor clothe ourselves, thanks to Gukurahundi? I mean, on education, it's a sad situation. Prospective intellectuals lost capable parents and or guardians. I personally know somebody a farm boy in a factory. His father was a headmaster, killed by Gukurahundi. Every time this guy tells me this story, I get skin chills. As I conclude, unless the economy of our people is addressed, mainly by us or by those who took the bread away from our mouths, we will never find inner peace. Never. Once the economic aspect and these other important nitty-gritties are addressed, then we will be able to recover all the setbacks which were lost due to Gukurahundi gracefully. 2 minutes, Mkhithi.
Hi, Latiswangile, Mr. Ndlovu. Thank you, everyone, for your kind contributions. As we said, e-report is available. It's now been posted on Twitter for you to read at your own time. It has so much detail. I think lapha ngizwa khona ubuhlungu mzala ukuthi ngambali report besithi we're going to get 3,000 schools in the country. We're going to get all these amazing things to help us as a region. We at the same time we have to be skeptical when we read these reports and see it as false promises or things that are hard to achieve. But on my part, please guys, asvaleni report and then we'll take it from there. Mzala, over to you.
Okay, yeah, we are going to give Taona a fee and finally Uzenzele to wrap up for us. The main question is, this process has started, people are being consulted. What should people do? What's your attitude towards the whole process? Should people participate? If they are called to be under Zotatama birth certificate, should they go? Taona, what should happen? Afterwards, Efi, and then Zenzele will close.
Okay, thank you again, Mzala. I think I agree earlier on to the, even though I was very, viciously critiquing this report, anyway, it deserved to be critiqued as well. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Go ahead. Yeah.
It deserves to be criticized, to be exposed, so that what do you call it, corrections or what do you call it, or other alterations can be made to that report to make it better, to make it what it's supposed to be. I agree with Zenzele's submissions that to a certain extent it's a good starting point. Isn't it? Because Gukurahundi, to talk about Gukurahundi, and even the way it is being talked today, about let's say 5, 3, or 10 years ago, it was a taboo, isn't it? So it was a taboo topic. It was criminalized. It was outlawed to talk about Gukurahundi. The fact that at least now the government is coming on board, try to address this issue of Gukurahundi to a certain extent, even though I've got reservation, should be commendable. Other thing as well I'm saying is that I agree with Zenzele's submission that we should make what called lemonade out of lemons, in the sense that, well, if birth certificates are being issued, let people go and get birth certificates. If the government is going to roll out the program to exhume and give decent burials for the victims of Gukurahundi, yes, let's embrace that, and people have that decent burials and so forth. And the other thing I just wanted to quickly touch about, because the report also, I think on page 7, it says no need for foreigners to come through and avoid foreign theories in terms of, yes, I'm a big favor of what President Thabo Mbeki said, that African solutions to African problems. Yes, I'm very much in favor about the issue of a homegrown approach towards the issue of transitional justice for Gukurahundi. And then again, they say that Chief Charumbi also in the report said, well, there's no need to have international commission and so forth. But however, my disagreement with this comes with, and my skepticism with this government is that, no, Zimbabwe has no history of instituting a transitional mechanism to address historical injustices. So therefore, the Zimbabwean government need to borrow widely from other jurisdictions. We've managed to successfully conduct transitional justice within their jurisdiction. That is, it needs to consult with South Africa. They had a Truth Reconciliation Commission. Right now, they've got this diplomatic bromance with President Kagame of Rwanda. They need to consult with the President Kagame and see how Rwanda is successfully done justice, this transitional justice mechanism. Hello, I'll call in a bit. So what I'm saying is the issue of internet so this is what I am saying, that, and also hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. You can wrap up down. Yeah.
Let me just wrap up. And also, it's disingenuous and very dishonest to say that the issue of Gukurahundi should not be internationalized. No, there was an international dimension in Gukurahundi. We know that's the South African government, the apartheid government of South Africa played a significant role in propping up Gukurahundi. We know that British government, was someone involved in the issue of Gukurahundi. We know that North Korea trained the 5th Brigade. So there's an international dimension to that. So the Gukurahundi issue should be internationalized, because right now we have companies or organizations which were involved in what they call it in slave trade. Or I remember the issue to do with the Mau Mau in Kenya. Right now, British government is paying compensation for the historical injustice it did for the Mau Mau guerrillas in Kenya. So I think the issue of Gukurahundi needs to be internationalized. It doesn't need just to be domesticated, because there were international players involved in Gukurahundi. So all those things needs to be, to be tackled, at a grand scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Taona. Ubabu Efi.
Nyabonga Mpoeto, good evening once again. For my concluding remarks will be that this was a genocide. and it must be handled as such. The crimes that were committed at the time were crimes against humanity. It was genocide, and there are standards applicable to crimes of that nature internationally that must be adhered to. And there are 4 principal positions that must always be maintained, that are always applicable in crimes of this nature. The first one is that whatever process must lead to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that requires that at some point the perpetrators themselves have to appear before an independent commission and speak about their roles of what happened. Let me give you an example of the importance of the participation of perpetrators. If chiefs come to me and I have a father who disappeared, the only thing that I can say is that some men came in the evening and took away my father at 9 in the evening, and I don't know where he is buried, how he was killed, and so forth. It is the perpetrator who has those facts. I cannot locate the remains of my father unless the perpetrator is given a platform to speak. I cannot locate the whereabouts of the mass graves that are dotted all over there unless the perpetrator is given a platform to speak. The problem arises when you are limiting this to the victims and survivors. Only you say, all right, speak, tell us what you want. We want to hear perpetrators speak to the crimes that they committed themselves. That is the international standard. The second one, also quickly, is the issue of holistic, adequate, and comprehensive reparations. And the third one is the issue of justice. It must be always contemplated. We can sequence these matters or principles in different ways. I don't know what to start with, what to end with. It depends on the circumstances. You can start with the truth, you can go on to reparations, and then you go on to other things, or you start with this and so forth. But all the 4 principles, that is the truth, justice, reparations, and non-recurrence, must always be there. None replaces the need for another. They are all there in a secular form, one reinforcing the other. That is what must come out from whatever process at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you so much, Babu Efi, for your contributions. We appreciate. Zenzele, your closing remarks, and then also you give us remarks about the ongoing Asake Film Festival for those who joined us late.
Okay, what I can say is I think I like what Dr. Ncube said. I think at one point we need to declare a victory. Coming from people who denied that Gukurahundi happened to a point where we are talking about them saying, let's do this, let's do that. We have moved mountains. Something has been done. There's been movement because these guys denied that it happened. So all what we need to do now is to make sure that we put the pressure to demand what we want and get what we want the way we want it. The process has begun. So let's not stop by saying, you know, I was looking at the manual, the ones that the chiefs are supposed to use, the community. If you look at how they are supposed to address people in Ndebele, utokona silapa ngendaba ebuhlungu indaba yombhuqazwe. So if
yes, I saw that part.
Yeah, if these guys can write ukuthi abantu bazafika kuma chiefs, ama chiefs ethi ekhuluma labantu ethi akhuluma ngombhuqazwe, that is huge because ngesikhiwa sithini, so we are talking about the genocide. So let's take note of those wins and amplify them and make sure that we get more wins. And lastly, on the festival, the Asake Film Festival is going on, and the big event that we should look at tomorrow, we have a public lecture, whose justice, whose peace, and we'll be talking again. I mean, the speaker will be looking at Gukurahundi and the international law because that's what he specializes in. And then on Friday, of course, we are launching a book which is called Memory and Erasure, Gukurahundi and the Culture of Violence in Zimbabwe. That Gukurahundi was not only an event. It is a culture. that is within ZANU. Remember, before the 1980 Gukurahundi, there was Gukurahundi in ZANU. You know, and Mugabe in his 1979 message say, let's call this year the year of Gukurahundi. And the Gukurahundi followed after 1980, which was the second Gukurahundi targeting ZAPU and his supporters. And we have Gukurahundi in 2022. Gukurahundi happened in Matopo, Gukurahundi happened in Caesar, Gukurahundi would happen in 2023, Gukurahundi happened in 2008 in many other parts of the country. So the culture of violence is always there. And this is what we are talking about on Friday, that yes, Gukurahundi might have stopped, but Gukuraundism and its legal tenants, and a 20-year-old person thinks if you disagree with them, you have to be killed. A 19-year-old thinks that discussions don't solve violence. If they don't agree with you, they have to come and stone you. We need to change the way that our young kids, our young people think, and that's what we'll be talking about this Friday.
Okay, Sensele, and then you can give us the platforms again. Where can people access all this that has been going on? The recordings and all?
Our Facebook page is site CITEZW, so you can find the documentary that we launched yesterday. I would encourage people to really watch the documentary that we launched yesterday. We will crush them. That gives the background to Gukurahundi and how we think, and we've tried by all means to say Gukurahundi was a genocide, and the issues Ubushe was talking about, the issues of rape. In that documentary that we talked about yesterday, there's actually a woman who says she was raped just 2 months after she got married, and she was raped by 5 men the whole night. And after that, the husband didn't want to sleep with her, and then her marriage collapsed. We talked to women who were raped when they were 14, when they were 12, they were grade 5. And there's one woman who says, up to today, if a man asks me out and I refuse, they say, they'll say, by the way, you were raped, so the only language that you understand, you just understand rape. So even up to today, person who was raped when he's in grade 5, she's in her 30s. I think now she's in her mid-40s or so. She's still, that trauma which she was raped is within the community. She even said, you know, the husband that I got married to was there the day I was raped, and this time we had an argument. You would say the problem with you is that you were raped, so probably something went wrong with you. So these are the things that are still within our community, and I encourage people to watch that documentary. There's a lot of, you know, these issues, you know, how people were traumatized, seeing their parents are being killed, buried alive. There's a woman who talks about how her 2 uncles were buried alive and she was watching. And there's another woman who talks about how her father was picked from the crowd, put in a grave, shot and buried. So you can get that documentary on Facebook, on YouTube, site ZW, and there are so many issues that relate to what is going on right now.
Thank you so much, Zenzele. Mapoko ngasvalela.
I'm never saying Kulumili closing remark, but guys, sorry, everyone, thank you very much for joining us in this conversation today. Please access the form, the report. If you haven't accessed it, just inbox one of us, Sili Tumele. But otherwise, thank you for all our speakers, all the listeners, and all the additional contributors. Mzala, thank you.
Good night. Thank you.